and really interested in learning how to use a book to further my business.
Well, you've come to the right place, Dan.
That's what I've been told.
Warren Buffett said, don't ask a barber if you need a haircut. So don't ask a book guy if you need a book. So thanks for being here. Patricia and then Susan. Trish, really.
Yeah, so thank you. Pleasure to be here. And my goal is to write a book next year. And so wanting to see the benefit of combining that with speaking and getting myself out there.
So our motto is a book is the #1 marketing tool for a consultant. Speaking is the #1 marketing strategy. When Mark LeBlanc and I have done a genealogy of our revenues, all good things came from speaking. So we'll be talking about that certainly today. Susan, and then, Lawrence, good to see you. Susan, and then Lawrence, in a sentence, what do you want to get out of today to be a home run?
I want to, I want to write a book to help build my business, but I have a story to tell to help save lives. And so I want to learn how to tell that story, how to put everything into the book.
Thank you, Susan. You're like a shill here today. Half of what I'm going to talk about is storytelling. Storytelling is so important because if I could leave one piece of science with everybody today, human brains are hardwired for stories. They immediately bypass the analytical part of the brain and go to the decision-making part of the brain. Susan, your story matters. I've heard part of it and it's very powerful. So I'm honored that you're here today. Thank you. Lawrence, and then Eunice.
Good morning, Henry, and good morning, Mark. It's good to see you again, Mark. Yeah, I guess in one sentence, I would like to get more clarity about whether or not 2021 is the year that I should write my book on productivity.
Lawrence, I was very touched by your email this morning, and we're here to help, whatever we can do. As a service, as a favor, whatever, we're here to help. And your story needs to be told. And because not for you, it will help you, it's going to help so many other people. Other people need to hear your story. And may I share your age?
Yes.
I laughed because you said, well, I'm 69. Like 69 is some end of the road. Like, oh, well, you got a year left, Lawrence. Let's get this done or you're over. You know, you've got a lot to share. And I think this next decade can be very important for you. Okay. Well, thanks for those. I wish we had time to have everybody share. That's a demonstration. Mark and I demonstrate everything we teach. That is a demonstration of the soft opening. You can do it in advance of starting and get people talking, or you can do it as the soft opening to start. Now we're going to have the official opening. I'm so pleased that the chairman of Indie Books is with us today, a man whose first little book has more than 70,000 copies out there helping people. Please welcome Mark LeBlanc.
Thank you, Henry. I guess I just want to start by saying thank you so much for joining us, as well as the $1 million question. And that is, what are you waiting for? Seriously. I know about half of you, some better than others. But I hope that you walk away today. I know you will walk away with some good insight, some good perspective, some ideas. But nothing great happens if a year from now you are in the same or similar seat and you're still thinking about that book that is inside of you. While I'm not going to call anybody out by name, although I could, you know I am speaking directly at your heart. For those of you that I don't know, I'm going to assume that I know you because you wouldn't be here if you did not feel that you had something to share, a gift, a talent, information, insight. In fact, I like to think of it as an acronym I came up with a number of years ago called WIZZY. W period, I period, S period, S period, I period, WIZZY. And it stands for Wisdom, Insights, Strategies, Stories, and Ideas. And I would suggest to you that you have enough WIZZY in you right now to have that book in 12 months. And if you don't have that book in 12 months, that will be a sad day. And we have an expression that, quite frankly, is sometimes eye-opening, and that is fear never sleeps. The reason the book that you've had in you for a year or 10 years is not out is not a lack of time. It's not a lack of funds. It's really fear. And Henry has battled those fears and the demons of doubt and uncertainty and chaos, and they are alive and well. I'm going to talk more about it later on in our presentation, but I want to just stop there and have you. In fact, I'd like you to just jot down 1 or 2 reasons why your book is not done yet. Because I've never met anybody who felt like they had a book inside of them be wrong. And I want you to think about what could happen as a result of getting your book in hand. In fact, I will say to you, let me be your first order. Let me be your first order. You just sold 2 copies of your first book or your next book. Send me 2 copies with an invoice and include shipping and handling. So as you track your numbers, you just made a sale today. Eunice, did you hear that? Just nod, because I want the first 2 copies of your book and everyone else on this call. Believe it or not, Henry and I, even though we co-own a publishing company, we really do not care if you work with us or you figure out a way to get it done without our support. We are incredibly passionate about books and what they can do to anchor a business model and to make an incredible difference in the lives and hearts and minds of the people that you serve best. And later on, I will share with you how I have become a bit of a poster child for what can happen when you write the right book. Because it's not about writing a book, it's about writing the right book. And as Henry shared, in not so many words, it's less about the book and more about what the book will lead to. Your book is a gateway tool to more $2,000 workshops or $3,000 coaching engagements or $10,000 keynote speeches. Or $15,000 consulting assignments. That's what we want. We want you doing more of the good work that you feel called and compelled to do. That's what matters, and that's why we are here today. I'm going to turn it over to Henry, but he will take the next section of our time here this morning. He is my twin brother from another mother, and I am proud to call him not only my business partner, but he is a confidant, one of my best friends, and Hardly a day goes by that we do not connect in some form or fashion, even simply to share good news. May I present to you Henry DeVries, who has been involved with nearly, I'm going to say 400 nonfiction business books from A to Z, as well as I think 18 possibly books of his own. The man who I believe knows more about the A to Z book publishing business than anyone I know. Henry, will you take it away?
Thank you, Mark. And thank you, everyone, for accepting our invitation to talk about marketing with a book and a speech. The year was 2015. The place, Memphis, Tennessee. We're in an 800 square foot apartment that Penny Reed shares with her daughter. We're just about a mile from the Mississippi Bridge in this little apartment, and Penny is at her kitchen table. She is staring at a stack of unpaid bills. She has no idea how she's going to pay these bills. It was a far cry from the 4,000 square foot home she used to live in with her daughter and her ex-husband, who was her employer, who gave her all her client work. No house, no employer, no client work. If you haven't met her yet, one day I hope you meet Penny Reed. She is a remarkable woman. And when she stared at those bills, she didn't ask the question, how am I going to pay these bills? She said, how am I going to make $200,000 a year as a professional speaker and consultant? That's when she met Mark and me. And I said, Penny, tell me about yourself. What do you know how to do better than anyone else? She said, oh, I got this. I know how to grow a dental business. And let me tell you, dentists are screwed up people. They borrow all this money to go to college. Then they borrow more money to go to dentistry school. Then they borrow more money to open a practice. And they think they own a business. A business owns them. And they're going to be working off that debt like an indentured servant for the rest of their life. But I know how to give them cash flow and time to enjoy life. And I said, bingo, we have a business model. Penny says, oh, okay, what are we going to do? What are we going to come up with, like this sexy, provocative title for my book? And I said, oh, I got it already. She says, you got it? I said, I got it. You ready? She goes, yeah. Your book title is Growing Your Dental Business. It's what they want, and it's what you know how to give them. She goes, oh, okay, so the plan is I'm going to write this book, and you're going to publish it, then I'm going to give speeches, and people are going to find me. And I go, no, that's not the plan at all. We're going to start writing the book, but Mark's one-a-day formula, I want you to make one call a day, one phone call every day. You need to commit to that. Penny said, who am I going to call? I said, I got this. People who book speakers to talk to dentists and dentists who might hire a consultant. Oh, I don't know if I can do that. I'll run out of people to call in a week. No, you won't, Penny. There's 1 million of them out there and they're multiplying like rabbits. She goes, well, I don't know what to say. I'm not a salesperson. I said, good. We will not have to untrain you. Here's your script. You might want to write this down. It's your script too. If you would be open to a conversation about booking me as a speaker on the topic of my upcoming book, that would be great. What am I going to say to the dentist? If you would be open to a conversation about hiring me as a consultant around the topic of my upcoming book, Growing Your Dental Business, that would be great. If is a soft knock at the door word. If invites a conversation. These are magical words. Well, Penny started using the magical words, and sure enough, she started getting booked as a speaker before the book came out. She started getting hired as a consultant and got cash flow. Then the book came out. She said, oh, good. so I don't have to make those phone calls. I said, oh, you have to make the phone call still. And you have to do one more thing. You have to send 20 copies of that book out every month. She said, who am I going to send them to? People who book speakers to talk to dentists and dentists who might hire a consultant. And she started sending a book a day. She got so busy, she had to hire a virtual assistant to help her get the books out and get organized on these other things. Well, I'm going to fast forward 2 years later. Penny is at her computer. She's looking at her QuickBooks accounting software program, and she hits the print button to print out her profit and loss statement for the year. Comes off the printer. Under gross profit, it says $200,000. $100,000 from speaking, $100,000 from consulting. That was a 2-year journey from $0 to $200,000. But more important than the money was the impact and influence Penny had. We gave her impact and influence. Now, Penny gave me permission to tell you that story today with 2 caveats. Caveat number 1, she said, don't make my ex-husband the villain of the story. He wasn't. We just didn't want to be married anymore. And 2, you need to tell him that I'm now up to $280,000 a year. Actually, I got a call. She's above that now for the end of this year. Penny continued to grow her business despite a pandemic, and it's led to some other really big opportunities for her. That's the power of what we're talking about today. I'm going to talk about 2 things to help you. I'm going to help you get clear around 2 things. First, let's get clarity around how this marketing with a book works. I did not write the book Marketing a Book. I wrote the book Marketing with a Book. And Mark was alluding to it in our studies, and I'm a former university researcher. I did a 10-year research study on this, and we found that independent consultants who market with a book and a speech get an ROI of 400 to 2,000%. So in other words, if you put $10,000 into this campaign over the course of a couple of years, you're going to earn an extra $40,000 to $200,000. We've documented it. There's some simple things. The Penny Reed story told you some of the big secrets. You can leave now if you want. You got the 2 big secrets. 1, make a phone call a day to a target-rich environment. And 2, send a copy of your book out a day. It's something that I do. It's just so important to do. So in my study, there was, I call it the Magnificent 7, the 7 ways an independent consultant markets with a book. So if we haven't met, I'm Henry DeVries. I'm the CEO of Indie Books International. We work with independent consultants who want to attract high-paying clients by marketing with a book and a speech. As a professional speaker, I train business leaders on how to persuade with a story. And I'm the author of a series of books on persuade with a story. I write a weekly business column for Forbes.com. It's on business development. And in doing this column for the last 2 years, I found out how most independent consultants talk about their business in the same dull, drab way. It's basically their message is, I'm also in business for now. They're a commodity. The book sets you apart. And the thing about the book that sets you apart the most is your story. Your stories matter. That's your hidden asset. Your defining story is your hidden asset that nobody else has. And long after you give them all your great facts and figures and advice, it's the stories you share of how you've taken prospects from mess to success, from failure to success, from rebirth to success, that make all the difference. And that's what people remember. Okay, so I'm going to give you the Magnificent 7, the top 7 things to do. I'm going to do them in reverse order, sort of like the old David Letterman lists. I'll go from 7 to 1. Number 7, Put on paid workshops where the information you have researched is so valuable, people will give their money and time to hear what you have to say. 10 times a year, I do a 3-hour, $365 master class. I love it. It's the book kickoff. But I'm telling people how they compare to other independent consultants about books, what to charge, how to structure it, what the stories to tell. What could you do? Number 6, get your internet game plan together. And by internet game plan, I'm talking LinkedIn and YouTube. We're going to talk more about that. Number 5, networking. Now, people are saying, oh, well, networking's dead during 2020. We can't network anymore. Well, you can't go to the reception and the wine and cheese, but there are plenty of networking opportunities. We started off with one here today. I do other events that are no cost where we do roundtables and people talk to each other about what's going on. Look for ways to network. Number 4 is do volunteer pro bono work for target-rich environments. For me, a target-rich environment is independent consultants. The IMC, the group for consultants, for management consultants. I've helped put on their national conference for 4 years. This year, I helped them go virtual. And in the virtual concept, I built in all different ways for people to network. But every committee meeting was networking for me when you get involved. Okay, now most people forget the top 3 secret weapons. Are you ready? Here are the 3 secret weapons. Number 3, get published. Getting published is a spectrum. It starts over here with your LinkedIn profile and publishing things on LinkedIn on a regular basis, fresh content there. I once spoke to a group of senior executives who were in transition. This is a nice way of saying they lost their jobs when they were in their 50s and they were downsized or whatever, merger or whatever happened. And I asked them about social media and asked them, you know, how many people had a blog, you know, no hands go up. And I said, I got to tell you, you guys look old. Not that you need a toupee or some face cream or something, maybe some of you do, but you think you're an expert, but there's no evidence you're providing the world that you are an expert. When you could do it for free today by posting blogs and opinion pieces and articles on LinkedIn. The other end of the spectrum is a New York Times bestseller. I haven't gotten there yet. I'm one step. My book, How to Close a Deal Like Warren Buffett, is from McGraw-Hill. It's in 5 languages, now in Chinese. Number 1, Amazon, 4 categories. But let me tell you, even having an international bestseller, you do not get discovered. I was not discovered because of that book. People didn't start calling me. You use it as a tool. It's a tool. Now, you can get published along the way. I am a Forbes.com columnist. Here's your reward for being on today. Devin, maybe you can type in my, in the chat box, you can put in my email address. But if you're interested in having me feature you in a Forbes column, send an email to me with the subject line Forbes. I'll send you back the instructions on how you can pitch me on a Forbes column, and if we like the idea, how that'll go. I do 5 a month. I'm paid to write 5 columns a month. That's on the spectrum. I didn't start with the paid Forbes gig. I've written for Inc., CBS Money Watch, the San Diego Daily Transcript. I mean, it's a spectrum. Okay, the second thing you can do, second most important thing you can do, and being an author opens the doors for this, is give how-to speeches. There are groups and associations that gather your target-rich environment. One is podcasters these days. I've been doing 4 podcasts a month since March. I used to travel the country. I'm in the Million Mile Club with American Airlines. I'm not sure, I'm proud of that. But I'm titanium with Marriott. I haven't been on an airplane or stayed at a hotel since February. And I have no plans to do it in 2021. But I am speaking a lot, and we grew indie books 20% this year. We were publishing 36 books a year. We're going up to 48. The growth has been virtual because there's all these opportunities to speak. I've spoken at conferences. I've been paid to speak online using Zoom. It's not for amateurs anymore. You're going to need to up your Zoom game and all sorts of things. But the opportunities are there. Now, drum roll. Number one, the number one thing you should be doing, small scale seminars. Seminars that you put on. Your target is to have 5 to 10 people there, and you're to be helpful. Our brand is generosity. We want your brand to be generosity too. Be generous in the advice you give to your prospects on how to solve their problems in general. The more generous you are, the luckier you're going to get with referrals, with prospects, meaningful conversations, people wanting to hire you. It's, call it the law of reciprocation, call it karma, call it kismet, call it what you will, but the more people you help in general, the more hire you for specifics. Now, how do you get people to join you like you're joining us today? Well, the secret is LinkedIn. And I'm a baby boomer, obviously. So I have no credibility on social media. I'm like Clint Eastwood, get those kids off my lawn. I realize I'm the old guy. Let's bring in Devin DeVries, our VP of Production and VP Social Media at Indie Books, to tell you how you can use LinkedIn, a simple strategy that will fill your small scale seminars on Zoom with prospects. Please welcome Devin DeVries. Devin, wheel on in.
Good morning. Thank you, Henry. So I'll just tell a quick story to kind of show the power of using LinkedIn in these small scale seminar events. About 6 years ago, when we founded Indie Books International, Henry knew that as a new player in the market, we needed to form some strategic partnerships in the industry to help grow our business and better serve our clients. So he had done some research and found that the #1 public relations firm for promoting books and authors was a firm out of Tampa, Florida called News and Experts. And he was able to get a call with their CEO, Marcia, and they had a nice kind of opening conversation about maybe we could be a referral source for you and you could be a referral source for us. And it ended, as those calls often do, with Marcia saying, well, this all sounds great. Next time you're in Florida, why don't you come by the office and we'll talk more? So Henry hangs up the phone, comes out to my office and asks, when's the next open date on our calendar? And I said, well, about 3 weeks from now, the beginning of September. He said, great, we're going to Florida. Okay, and he calls Marcia back up and says, oh, it just so happens I'm going to be in Orlando the first weekend of September. Maybe we can get together. So, oh, that sounds great. What's bringing you to Florida? And he said, well, I'm putting on my Marketing with a Book and Speech Summit. So, well, that sounds very interesting. I'd like to come to that as well. So here's the situation. We have 3 weeks to fill a room so we don't look like posers in front of the CEO we're trying to impress. But here's the problem. We're a Southern California-based company, and we knew nobody in Florida. Our constant contact database had 0 people in that region of the country at that time. So what were we going to do? And that's when we turned to LinkedIn and developed this LinkedIn outreach strategy. Now I'll give you kind of just the quick overview of how it works. But if you'd like to see details and sample messages, we have a white paper that we're happy to send after the program. But the thing I love about LinkedIn is all of that information we all put in our profiles is searchable. And that's what makes it such a powerful marketing tool, because if you know who your ideal audience is, you can find them on LinkedIn. So Henry believes in setting goals with incentives. So he said, if you could get 12 people to sign up for this event in 3 weeks, I'll buy you a ticket to Disney World while we're in Florida. And just a personal note about me, I love that I have the ability to work basically anywhere in the world with Wi-Fi, but if I could choose one place in the world to have my office, it would be on Main Street of Disneyland. I am a Disney nut. He knows this about me. So when he set that goal, I was like, challenge accepted. And here's what I did. On LinkedIn, when you go to connect with somebody, you can add a note. And all we did was add a simple sentence, which was, would you be open to an invitation to be my guest at an event I'm hosting for consultants in Orlando? If you can add one other little sentence about, some sort of personal connection or maybe a reason, something that brings you guys together, that's even more powerful. But just even that simple note in the connection request will take you pretty far. And if they accept the connection request, then we follow it up with just a simple 1-paragraph invitation to our no-cost event. And as Henry was saying, the purpose of this event is to be generous with information. It's a non-selling zone. And all of that is clear in the invitation. And then there's a link to our website with more information if they like it. And that's it. So it's a real soft knock approach. It's not pushy or salesy. We only send one message. We don't continue to send to people. We just kind of see who's interested in the topic. And the right people, your right audience, will respond to the message. So what I did was found as many people that matched our target audience in Florida, sent as many messages as I could in those 3 weeks' time. And in the end, I was able to get 15 people to sign up. We met with Marcia, had a great meeting, started working with her, still partner with her to this very day. It's been a wonderful relationship. She's helped our authors get on local news and TV and even national TV. And she's also been a referral source for us. Our largest contract to date was actually a referral from Marcia. But that's not even the best part of the story. We wrote business as a direct result of those LinkedIn messages that covered the expense of the entire trip before we even left our offices in California. We had a few people receive the message. One said, I can't make that date, but I've been looking for a ghostwriter. Can we have a call? And then the other one, and this is an interesting kind of side effect of this strategy, is this person went and read Henry's profile to see who was sending him this message, saw that he's a Vistage speaker, and said, I've been trying to get into the Vistage speaking world. Is that something you can help me with? And bought 2 coaching sessions, which again isn't even like our main menu items, but it's just a nice introduction to us. So that shows the power of the strategy. We have since used it across the country to fill rooms, and then this year, starting in January, to fill virtual rooms. And the strategy holds true. If you have the right topic for the right audience, they will respond. So with that, I will hand it back over to Henry.
Thank you, Devin. Come back in. Life happens while you're making other plans, or there's a Jewish proverb about if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. This Monday and Tuesday we were setting up the office and the camera, and the governor of California declared an entire lockdown for the state, and we had to move into the condo, the house here, to do this today. So this happens, but you have to be flexible in this new world that we're in, and we're going to live our lives on Zoom wherever. So Devin is my daughter. When Mark and I wanted to form this company, he said, we're going to need a third person. We're going to need this control tower. We're going to need this person to steer. And I said, I know such a person. We flew to Seattle to meet with Devin to woo her out of the corporate world. And she accepted on one condition, that you never make me speak in front of an audience. And we said sure at the time, but Devin has come so far. She's president of her Toastmasters group, and I think she did a great job presenting. Thank you, Devin. Okay, there is a secret weapon that you have, a hidden asset, and it's your defining story. So I'm going to tell my defining story now, and that'll take us into a break. And we'll have a break after that. And when we come back from the break, we get Mark LeBlanc. So I'll never forget the time my business advisor, my coach, Gary Hawk, said he wanted to go out to lunch with me at a Chinese restaurant to hear my exit strategy. Exit strategy. That was so great. Finally, I could tell somebody. I was running an advertising and public relations firm in San Diego at the time. And when I sat down with Gary, I said, okay, let me tell you about my exit strategy. I'm going to grow this advertising agency to be $1 million agency, and it's going to be running like a top. I'm going to find strategic buyers, and then I'm going to help independent consultants have impact and influence and grow their business and attract high-paying clients. Gary said, wow, how long is that going to take? I said, 10 years. He goes, okay. Do you mind if I ask you 3 follow-up questions? And I said, sure. And he said, well, how would you do this? And I said, oh, I would write books, and I would put on workshops, and I would write articles and give speeches, and I would show people all the tricks, and I've cracked the code on this. I can help them. Gary said, wow, you sound very passionate about this. I said, I am. He said, well, my second question is, why are you waiting 10 years to follow your passion? Ugh, that was a gut check question. I hate it when consultants like you, Larry, ask gut check questions. So I did what all your clients do when you ask them a hard question. I lied. I didn't know it was a lie at the time, but I said, Gary, we can't do it then because these contracts and these employees and these agreements and the leases and Gary, there is a wolf at my door. There is a wolf at my door, and this wolf, I have to get past this wolf at my door every day. Now, it was really my fear talking. Mark said fear never sleeps. It was my fear that I wouldn't be able to pull this off, but I didn't even know it at the time. Gary let me off easy and said, I get it, wolf at the door. How would you get started in a small way? And I said, well, I would have a lunch and learn. I would buy the turkey sandwiches, send out invites, and tell people everything I know about attracting high-paying clients. So I took the last $2,000 in the business checking account, bought postage, invites, sent them out in the mail. My invitations were in the mail the week of 9/11/2001. When the jets hit the tower, my invitations had not arrived yet. They arrived right after. And you know what happened to business. And 5 of the top 10 ad and PR agencies in San Diego went bankrupt that year. I knew one that didn't write an invoice for 90 days, and they were just hanging on by their fingernails. But a funny thing happened. At the end of the month, my conference room was filled with people who wanted the turkey sandwich and to hear what I had to say. I poured my heart out, and at the end said, are there any questions? And somebody said, yes, how much would you charge to coach us to do that? Gary Hawk never asked me that question. I had no business model. So I PFA'd, I pulled from air and said $5,000. And the person said, do you need a check or can you take a credit card? And the next month, 6, then 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Cost did not matter, price did not matter. It was their belief and my willingness to do the heavy lifting. So I found a home for the clients, I found a home for the employees, we retooled. Fast forward, now we have over 300 clients. We started this on April 1st, 2014, not a coincidence. We have a touch of whimsy in us in our start date. And this story is not about us. It's really about all of you. It's the same questions. How would you do this? Well, we're telling you highlights today. We have classes, but we have books. You send me an email and just write subject line book, and I'll send you a free book on how to do this. 2, what are you waiting for? What are you, why are you fixing to do this? Why are you getting ready to get ready? How is this going to be better in a year from now? There's never been a better time to write and get a book that will attract clients to you and give you more impact and influence. Now is the time. And the third question is, how would you get started in a small way? Well, I offer, and Devin offers, something called a book chat. You can have a free conversation with us, a strategic call. No cost, no selling, no kidding. So it's not a selling zone. We're going to help you get clarity around your goals, your assets, your roadblocks, and how others have gotten from where you are to where you want to go. I suggest you start in that small way. Now, and we're going to take a 10-minute break at 52 minutes after the hour. Mark LeBlanc is going to start, and I hope he shares his $500,000 mistake he made in doing this, so you can avoid that mistake. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you at, there's a question. When we break, okay. Don't leave, just stop your video during this break. So we'll see you at 52 after the hour. Thanks. Hello, everyone, and take it away, Mark LeBlanc.
All right, thank you, Henry. And I'm hoping that everyone has already sent you an email suggesting that they be considered for a Forbes article. For the rest of you, you'd be amazed at how many times I've heard Henry make that offer and how so very few will take advantage of that opportunity, as well as a second email requesting a book chat. A book chat is a no selling zone, but a way for Henry to ask you the critical questions that you need to not only know, but need to answer in terms of setting the stage for either your next book or for many of you, your first book. Let me suggest to you that the magic happens when people experience you. The magic happens when people experience you. I have built my little empire, and that's a bit of an oxymoron, but I have built my little empire, my small empire, on a mantra where 2 or 3 are gathered in the name of growing their business. By God, I want to be there. And Henry mentioned a phrase, and you may or may not have written it down. If you haven't, I want to make sure that you write this phrase down: genealogy of your revenues. The genealogy of your revenues. I started my speaking and coaching business full-time in 1992. I've been on my own since 1982. I owned a creative graphics printing and mailing company for 10 years before I sold that to follow my dream of being a professional speaker. So I built up my graphics and printing company, sold it in 1992, started my current company, and promptly fell flat on my face. Nothing great happened for me in the next 12 months. For some reason, I think I subscribe to the notion, start it and they will come, or build it and they will come, and no one came. In fact, for the first 12 months, I did not earn a nickel in my business. It was a goal that I do not remember setting. And when your company name is Small Business Success, that is a bit of a gap. And when I say not a nickel, I mean not a nickel. The good news is, or maybe the great news is that I hung in there when I should have most likely thrown in the towel on my dream. That year of nothing is not unlike this last year. We are in the midst of a pandemic, and hopefully there's some light at the end of the tunnel. And what I want to share is my heart, first and foremost, goes out to you. If you, your family, loved ones, friends, clients, people that you know have been impacted by COVID-19. My favorite aunt passed away due to COVID-19. And I certainly have had aunts and uncles and nieces and nephews. My father tested positive here in early November, ended up being rushed to the hospital, was on oxygen for 6 days, and came through it and is back in his room, in his nursing home. And for those of you that know the story, Rocky Balboa has nothing on my dad. My dad has been through so much in the last 24 years, and he keeps getting knocked down and coming up for one more round. I believe with my whole heart, mind, and soul that never before has maybe your wisdom, insight, strategy, stories, and ideas have been needed now more than ever. And many people made up a story after April 1st when COVID hit. They made up a story that It was not the time to sell. It was not the time to market yourself. It was the time to give back or give everything away for free. And I just thought that was absolutely short-sighted. Definitely, many of us needed to make an adjustment in our approach. But many of us have had strong years. 2019 was the absolute best year of my career. My numbers are down for 2020, but it's strong and it's been respectable. And November was my best sales month of the year. Do not hang your head or retreat like a frightened turtle. Shortly, we will be faced with whether or not to get the vaccine. And certainly there is some controversy around that. I'm not here to comment on that, but in the next 7-ish months, many people will take the vaccine. And here's my prediction. On the day when the first person, when he or she gets the vaccine, and there'll still be millions of people to go or tens of millions of people to go, but on that day when that first person receives their vaccine, you will hear a collective exhale. We will be on our way, and meeting planners and decision makers are going to start, or they're going to kick into a higher gear of booking in-person meetings for the fall and for 2022. There may still be fewer in-person events in 2021, but come this spring, March, April, May, June, you're going to see a flurry of booking opportunities for professional speakers and trainers and presenters for meetings and events. But here's what I will also suggest to you, that we are never going back to what it looked like pre-COVID. That hybrid meetings and virtual presentations are going to continue to be in demand. And it's your opportunity to capitalize on the opportunities that both not only in person, but virtual have to offer. And now we don't have time to solicit any feedback inside of our presentation here today. We had 29 registered for this webinar. A few people were not able to make it. We will make the recording available. But we are, in our own way today, having the kind of impact and influence we want to have with the people that we serve best. And that is you. The magic happens when people experience you. Henry shared a strategy, and I want to bring a name to the strategy. And he talked about Penny Reed and other clients making a call a day or mailing a book a day. We refer to that as the Storm Starter Strategy. It's a seed planting strategy. Some of you are already familiar with it because you are a part of my world and my network. But the Storm Starter Strategy is a seed planting strategy directed at 6 sectors of potential. You may not have realized it, but there are 6 sectors of potential in the marketplace. Sector 1 is new business opportunities with brand new prospects, people who do not know you. Sector 2 is new business opportunities with people who do know you, with existing prospects, people who do know you, but you've never done any business before. Sector 3 is new business opportunities with past clients. And Sector 4 is new business opportunities with current or active clients. Sector 5 is new business opportunities with your referral sources, or who we call advocates. Sector 6 is new business opportunities with affiliate relationships. Those people that you might have some type of formal lead sharing relationship with, and when a referral is made and a sale is made, a commission or referral fee is due. And I'll just recap that very quickly. Sector 1 is new business with new prospects. Sector 2, new business with existing prospects. Sector 3, new business with past clients. Sector 4, new business with current clients. Sector 5, new business through advocates. And Sector 6 is new business through affiliate type relationships. And the reason I share that umbrella view of where your potential is because many of us don't understand or see the potential that is often right under our nose. Whether it's in your LinkedIn connections, whether it's in the database that you've already put into place. So often we think about directing our marketing efforts to Sector 1, strangers who have never heard of us. And while that is true, that's an important sector, but it's just one of 6. And I want to share a very specific strategy, and I want you to imagine what might happen if you were to implement this strategy like I have and a number of my clients have. Let's put a bead or a pin light on Sector 5, new business opportunities via advocates, your champions or your cheerleaders. Now, in reality, most of us have maybe 10 strong champions or cheerleaders. Maybe some of us 5, maybe some of us maybe 15, but let's put the bullseye on 10. If you identified 10 advocates, people who really believe in you and your work and your message, imagine what could happen if you had your book ready to go, and instead of sending an advocate a copy of your book, imagine if you signed 5 books and gave each of your advocates a box of 5 books. If I was your advocate and you sent me a box of 5 books that were signed, and I had people in my network across some of my sectors, and I was able to mail a book on your behalf and say to Bob, enclosed is a copy of a book by a friend of mine. His name is Dan McGee. I think you are going to find that this is one of the most fascinating reads on leadership and what it means to lead an organization and a team. I hope you enjoy it. If I sent out 5 books on behalf of Dan, and 5 books on behalf of Eunice, and 5 books on behalf of Susan Cotton, or anyone else that I could be an advocate for, what are the odds of a positive result? And I want you to jot this phrase down. It's a phrase I've often share. I've been sharing it for well over 20 years, and the phrase is greater likelihood. When we feel isolated in our homes or our home offices, and we're not sure what to do or where to go, how you leverage and aim your efforts at these 6 sectors of potential is enormous. It is true that my first book, Growing Your Business, became what Henry refers to as an underground bestseller. I've moved well over 70,000 copies, now approaching 80,000 copies of my little blue book, Growing Your Business. If you would like the electronic version of this book, please send me an email and I will forward you the ebook version or electronic version of Growing Your Business. This little book, all of 77 pages, was published 20 years ago. And I'm just as proud of this little book, Growing Your Business, today as I was 20 years ago when I opened the first box. Now, I was not blessed to have children of my own, but sometimes birthing a book is probably not unlike birthing a child, or at least I have been told. But I'll never forget the moment when I opened that box of books for the first time, and I picked one up and I could not believe it. And I began to look at the book, and it was a small book, just 77 pages. But at that point, that was sort of the extent of my wisdom, insight, strategy, stories, and ideas. There is white space in this book. I broke so many publishing and editing rules and guidelines of this book, it's almost embarrassing. But I'm not embarrassed, because this book has been the little book that has made an enormous difference in the hearts and minds and souls of my readers and audience members and attendees and those who've attended my Achiever Circle. Somehow this little book struck a chord. Now, I didn't know Henry when this book came out, and certainly my books in the year since have been better because I'm that much more knowledgeable and that much more educated. But I want you to make a note if you have this book, because if I ever get an email or a note in the mail about this book, and I've had many over the last 20 years, they always refer to Chapter 2. Chapter 2. In Chapter 2, I have what we call a monster story in Chapter 2. It's an overcoming an obstacle story. Now, I didn't know it was a monster story or solving a monster problem. Henry taught me about the power of story. I just knew I had a problem, and I wrote a chapter about it. When Henry shared the story of Penny Reed, we refer to that as a client success story. You have stories inside of you, and stories matter. You see, there are 4 things a master speaker or a master presenter does. Not in every presentation, but this is what I hope to inspire you to. A great speaker or a masterful speaker does 4 things. Number 1, they engage your mind. Number 2, they touch your heart. Number 3, they stir your soul. And number 4, they make you laugh. Again, they don't do it in every presentation. I'm not going to check off all 4 of those boxes in this presentation or our time together. Where most speakers and authors start is with engaging your mind. We engage people's minds through our how-to content, our strategies, our principles, our practices, our tips, our tricks, our tactics, our ideas. That's how we engage a reader's mind. We touch their heart with story. Chapter 2 has a monster story that provides a solution and shares a message of hope for others that are facing that same monster problem or obstacle in the marketplace. In fact, I refer to it as the greatest single obstacle that you and I face on a daily basis. And I shared in chapter 2 how I overcame that story. And it's a message of hope, and it's a message of understanding. There's a pretty good chance you yourself have overcome a monster problem to get to where you are today on your journey. Never underestimate the power of your story. But as we look forward, you would most likely not be with us today or not be where you are on your journey without having a client success story of some type. Now, circling back to the Storm Starter strategy, and I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest version of the story. But one of my clients, and his name is Nick Biddle, wrote a great book titled Know This, Do That. Know This, Do That, specifically designed for apprentices in the construction world. And his subtitle was How to Be Outstanding in Your Field and Create a Successful Career in the Trades. Now, you don't know this, but Nick and I do, that there are 700 apprentice training programs across the United States. And most of these apprentice training directors don't really know what to do with their apprentices. And through a series of some steps and some research that we worked on for probably the better part of a year, possibly a little bit more. And this was Nick's fourth book, not his first, not his second. It was his fourth book. He put together this book. I don't remember what his first run was, but we put together a storm starter. In fact, we should call it the hurricane campaign, because essentially it was a tornado of activity. And he set out to mail 700 complimentary books to these apprentice training directors that were all, with the exception of a handful or two, were all Sector 1 prospects, people who had never heard of Nick Biddle. This is the hardest sector sometimes to get an ROI on. But we wrote the book for these apprentice training programs. We designed it with their apprentice training calendar in mind, 36 lessons. It was 36 chapters in this book. And he started mailing out, I don't remember if it was 20 books a month or probably more than that. He did not make it to 700 books. He mailed approximately 350 free books. I think he followed up with about 275 emails to those 350. And the short story is it resulted in over $140,000 of immediate business in the first 12 months of that little two-step campaign. Now, Nick had other things going on. He has a book titled Perform Like a Boss. He's got a book titled Good Foreman, Bad Foreman, based on his 3-hour workshop for field foremen in the marketplace or in the workplace. But all to say, similar to Penny, publishing the right books became several game changers along the way that elevated his success, not to the next level, up 4 levels, up 4 levels. There is so much opportunity out there in the marketplace for you and for me, but it may take a little rigor. It may take resolve. It may take having a book Sherpa by your side, someone who will pull you through on the days that you do not believe in your book. And I hate to say it, on the days when you don't believe in yourself. The demons of doubt and uncertainty and chaos are only ever an arm's length away. I wrote Growing Your Business 20 years ago and have moved almost 80,000 copies. People say, Mark, how did you move 80,000 copies on a little $10 book before Al Gore even invented the internet? Well, thank God that he did invent the internet. But here's what I have that is the secret to my success. And then I'm going to share the ugly of the $500,000 mistake. I may shed another tear or two. The secret to 80,000 copies of this little blue book was an accidentally brilliant quantity book pricing scheme. You see, when I printed my first book, I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden a Barnes & Noble reached out to me and said, somebody's inquired about your book, Growing Your Business. Would you please send us 2 copies with an invoice? And I thought, I have made it. A Barnes & Noble is reaching out to me to buy 2 copies of my book. God bless America. Only they told me that they would pay me about 45% of the retail price of the book, and I had to pay shipping and handling, and they warned me that if they did not sell, most likely they would return the 2 books to me in about 6 months and want me to pay the return postage. And I never lost sight of that moment. But I remember in 1979, when I graduated from high school, my dad gave me a copy of a little book titled The Greatest Salesman in the World by my favorite author, Og Mandino. And he gave me this little book titled The Greatest Salesman in the World as a graduation present. I wanted a car. And instead, my dad gave me a book that at the time retailed for $6.99. Only it didn't cost my dad $6.99 because he had been gifted the book and he liked the book so much that he contacted the publisher and ordered a case. My dad got a carton of books for 50% off. Here I wanted a car. Can you imagine your dad for your graduation present giving you something that cost $3? I shudder to think what a high school senior in 2020 or 2021 would do if his or her parents gave them a $3 graduation gift. But that book changed my life. And that book changed the way I think, how I take action. And I thought back to 1979 and I thought, what if I created a book, and what if I had a volume pricing plan for people like my dad, that if they liked the book, they might order a case. And so I came up with this accidentally brilliant pricing plan, and it really goes like this. The book sells for $10 even, and if somebody orders 25 copies, they get 25% off. I thought, I can remember that. Well, what if they order 50 copies? Okay, well, if they order 50 copies, I'll give them 50% off. And no, that doesn't mean if you order 100, you get 100% off. But that little quantity pricing plan of 25% off an order of 25 and 50% off an order of 50 or more changed my game. And to date, I have over 800 quantity orders of my little blue book, Growing Your Business. That's over 800 orders of 50 copies or more. So for $5 a piece, you know, it's hard today to even get a decent pen personalized with your name and company name and telephone number to give as a gift. I have mortgage brokers who buy these by the carton to give to real estate agents. And yes, the book is 20 years, I'll say 20 years young, but the whizzy is timeless. The whizzy inside this book is timeless. And last year, in 2019 and in 2020, I have a consultant in Minneapolis who reached out to me, who got a copy of the book and reached out to me, and to date, in the last 16 months, has purchased 6 orders of 100 copies of a book that was published 20 years ago. You can do this. There is nothing magical about this book, with one exception. It's done. And done is better than perfect. And I know that some of you struggle with what we call the perfection trap. And you want that first book to be perfect. You want the first book to be that signature piece of work that is going to be your War and Peace. This is less than 10,000 words. I know you can write 10,000 words in the next 30 days. I know you. You might be unique in God's eyes. You're not in mine. You've got 10,000 words of whizzy inside of you right now. And if you don't think you can get it done in 30 days, I'll give you 90. And if you can't get it done in 90, I'll give you 180. But if you can't write 10,000 words in 180 days, what are you doing? It was my second book, titled Never Be the Same, that became my signature book. This is a masterpiece. I bet the farm on this book. I invested to the hilt. I had a book team on this book. My first run was 5,000 hardcover copies. To date, in my 39-year history of being in business for myself, I've never been more proud of anything than this book, Never Be the Same. This came out 10 years ago. 10 days after I opened up the first box, I signed a 6-figure speaking agreement with JP Morgan Chase Bank to bring this message to 15 cities around the United States on the lessons and principles therein to their audiences of preferred customers in 15 target markets, 15 major cities. My second book became my signature book. But here's the big challenge. And I'm not even sure I like to use the word challenge. So I'm gonna change it to encouragement. If you think about your favorite authors, for me, it was Og Mandino. But think about your favorite author, and maybe for some of you, it is maybe Seth Godin, or it's Tom Peters, or it's somebody like that. Did they ever stop at one book? It may be easier for you to get your first book done if you start to think in terms of a book's plan. What is your book's plan for the next 10 years? I've published and co-authored 3 books in the last 4 years. Now, I know that must seem incredibly daunting when you're thinking about how in the world am I ever going to get my first book done? But having a book's plan in place, maybe 5 books over the next 10 years might make sense, or 3 books, but it might just take the pressure off of getting the first book out of the way. And with 1 minute to go, the $500,000 mistake was I had every good intention of publishing the companion manual or workbook to this little book, that I was going to charge either $79 or $97, the 8.5 by 11 spiral bound version. You know, you can buy my book for $10, or for $97, you can get the companion, put it into practice, the forms, the formulas, the tools, the templates for $97, and I'll throw in the $10 book. I conservatively estimate that I would have moved at a minimum 5,000 copies of a $100 workbook in the last 20 years. And for those of you that know me and know of me in the marketplace, that is a conservative estimate. Let's get your book done. Let's consider if you have the right information and strategy to engage minds and create the companion workbook or manual. What are you waiting for? Get off of this call and start writing. I don't recall if Henry mentioned this, but he and I will stay on the line, Devin as well, until we outnumber you answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much for joining us today. We care about you, and whether you do a book with us or work with us or get some guidance from us, send us a copy of whatever you do in the next 12 months. God bless you.
Thank you, Mark. This is how you applaud in Zoom. So thank you. And again, that officially concludes, but as Mark said, we're all sticking around answering questions. And Devin, let's unmute everybody and just ask your question, and we'll take it away. Lawrence, we primed the pump a little with yours. Why don't you ask that question again, and we can put it to Mark.
Which question? The one I put in my email?
Yeah, the one in your email.
I don't remember what it was. Let me pull up that email. I've lost the email. I can't believe it. Here we go. Yeah, after everything that I said in the email, it was, heck, could it possibly lead to clarity about what I do, including a book, to get some of my life lessons in front of some people who would benefit? And that probably that's taken out of context. It probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but I will give the short story, which is I had a heck of a bad year, and a lot of things leading up to it. And I think I have some stories that relate to time management, personal productivity, and specifically dealing with attention deficit disorder. And so my question is now the time to write that book? And what can it lead to for me?
Lawrence,
Yes,
I'll take that, Henry, if that's okay.
Yes.
First pointed question is, how many life lessons and how many stories would be beneficial to a reader?
probably one.
One story, and how many? But you said life lessons. What?
Oh, you mean of my life lessons?
Yeah. What's the number of life lessons you have to share?
I can't put a number on it, but it's insignificant, or not insignificant.
Oh, I know that. And so you had a monster year, it sounds like. But it sounds to me like that is a story worth reading. I don't even know you and I want to read the story. But there are X number of life lessons that you learned during that process and during your nearly 69 years that have helped you become the person you are today. Would that be a true statement?
Yes.
I think your first step, if you haven't, is to write your story in 1,000 or 2,000 words. Just get it out of you if you have not done that yet. But second, just start a laundry list of the pearls of wisdom or the life lessons. It might be 39, or it might be 17, or it might be 11. There's no wrong answer, but it's just the step of, here's what I would want my niece or nephew. Here's what I would want my son or daughter. Here's what I would want a reader to take away. There's always going to be X number. Let's start with just figuring out what that story is and getting the short version down, and then identifying the number. If you can go to Henry and say, I've identified 22 lessons, Henry and team can take that whizzy and now help you create a book outline and craft a table of contents and give you the type of direction you need with that. With respect to what it could lead to, that's a little more difficult for me to answer because I don't know you well enough to know what you want to have happen as a result of the book. Henry will help you clarify that. But let's get going on this. And also, Lawrence, to the point about your age, you are in the enviable position of being the sage. And my mentor, Joan Kennedy, who introduced me to the National Speakers Association when I was 21 and she was 59, passed away at 96 and published her last book at 94. And Indie Books published her final book. And we had a book party for her in Minneapolis. She was 94. And she stood up at this book party with 200 people in attendance. And she did 20 minutes of near stand-up comedy about her career and the lessons that she's learned along the way. And people were buying quantities of 10 and 20 on the way out the door. So I don't want to say you've got till 96, but we certainly can get rocking and rolling on your book. Thank you for being with us here today.
Thank you, Mark.
Next.
We have a question from Susan, and it's, where do you begin when writing a book? I have no idea where to start. And I'll take this and see if you want to add. A business book, you start with the who and the what. Who is this book for, and what problem does it solve? People pick up books. Now, Lawrence's book, he gave a clue. His book might solve a productivity problem. You know, people are feeling a lack of productivity. Which who? That's a choice you get to make. But those are the starting points on the book. And then Mark talked about story. One thing we look at is yours a monster story, an underdog story, a comedy problem-solving story, or a tragic problem-solving story, also known as a cautionary tale? Is it a mystery? Is it a quest for a prize? Never Be the Same is my favorite business quest book of all time. Is it a rebirth story, also known as a comeback or redemption, or is it an escape story? Bruce Heller's on this line. I helped him with The Prodigal Executive, and it's about executives who get off track. There was something great about them, but they got off track. And as a coach, he helps 8 out of 10 get back on track, escape the crazy town they're in. We just helped one of our authors, Brenda Abdullah, on escaping crazy town, because she helps corporate executives who are the ones who feel like they're in crazy town and they've got to escape. So that's the 1, 2, 3, Susan. Happy to have a book chat with you and we can flesh that out. But it's who has the problem, what is the problem, and then overarching, what kind of story are you telling?
Okay, thank you, Henry.
Bruce, did I see your hand go up, or just scratching your head? You're on.
It's in the chat.
It's in the chat. What is your daily process for putting pen to paper? We'd like to hear Mark's view on that.
That's a great question, and I wish I had a daily process. I have this dream that I'm going to write for about 45 minutes every day, or maybe 5 days a week. Everybody seems to have their own unique personal style. My style tends to be carve out a chunk of time. And for some people, it might be, I guess pre-COVID, maybe going on a little writing retreat. Henry and I and Kathy McAfee co-authored a book in a weekend and had 80% of it done in a weekend, and then spent the next 5 or so months editing it and, you know, getting stuck on it a little bit here and there. But we had book from the writing retreat to book in hand in about 7 months. I'm in 5 coaching sessions every day. Certainly I'm not traveling right now to speak, but I'm doing a number of my own virtual presentations. It would be helpful if I got into a regular writing routine, but for me personally, it's chunks of time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Henry.
Hey, Mark, I have a question. Hey,
Hi.
how's it going? Okay, question and statement. Statement first, I think my book is done. I think it's done. What has been holding me back from being done are a couple things. And I think we talked about one thing today as a book plan. As I was writing my first book, I was like, well, there's a bigger picture here. This should be in a second book. And then I kind of got stuck, like, well, should I be including all of this in this first book? But then it would take me a million years to get all of the things into the first book. So I think I'm answering my own first question right now, is that I just need to set that aside for the second book and get the first book done. I was considering going the self-publishing route because I don't care if I make $1 million from this first book. I just want it to be like the calling card thing so I can speak more. But I would love to talk to you and Henry about your publishing company. I didn't even know that that was a thing, and to see if we would be a good fit or partners together to move forward with that, or if your suggestion is to just self-publish for what I have. So I think that's the question. Can I meet with you?
I've been waiting, Mandy. I've been waiting patiently.
Okay.
My lip has been bleeding, waiting for you. Absolutely. And there are many paths to getting your book published. You know, the sad truth is that, well, here's the great news. It's easier than ever before to self-publish your book. The hard news is it's easier than ever before to self-publish your book. And a lot of people write crappy books. And we know that, right? I mean, we're handed them all the time. And yes, they can do them on the cheap. We heard a statistic this week that there will be 398,000 nonfiction business books published this year. 398,000. And most of them, Mandy, will never move over 250 copies. And those tend to fall in that self-published category. And yes, you can cobble together, you know, someone here and someone there to kind of put together your book, and you can load it onto Amazon. That's all fine and dandy. The challenge becomes when you have a good book with the wrong title, a good book with the wrong subtitle, and it was not thought through in the beginning. That can make all the difference in the world between your book moving 250 copies versus 2,500 copies versus 25,000 copies. So let's just have a conversation and figure out what will meet the best of what you need and want. But to your story, I got stuck so many times on growing your business because there was actually supposed to be two more chapters in here. And if you had heard me speak, and you've been on one of my Achiever Circles, if you had heard me speak or been to an Achiever Circle, those two chapters would have made sense. But if you were a stranger, if you'd been handed the book, you would have read those two chapters and said, you know, this makes sense, but I'm not quite sure what to do with this. There would have been frustration. And I literally got stuck on those two chapters. And being a man of faith, I went away and I went on a business trip, and my prayer was, I've got to have the answer by the time I get back. I cannot have this sitting on my shelf anymore, on the hard drive of my mind. And that weekend, it was like the answer came. Get rid of the two chapters. They can come down the road, you know, in a second or third book. And boy, I tied a ribbon around what I had, and bam, it was done.
Okay, that sounds awesome and very scary.
Yeah.
But I'm ready. Can we meet?
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else? Any other questions?
I want to thank you guys for sharing your time. First of all, you guys have been an inspiration. And just hearing everybody else's questions kind of already answered mine, especially the writing plan. I am no writer by any means. I had to learn English, so I am Spanish. Number one is my first language. So that has been my giant. If I were to have to introduce myself, that is going to be the beast to conquer. But in my discussions with Mark, he encouraged me that there's a fix to that and there's help out there. And so it's kind of exciting just to be on this call and connecting with you guys and knowing that I'm not alone. And even though I'm broke, I don't have to pay anybody to be on this call to get encouraged, because I mean, I've already lost everything. All I can do is just give what I have, and God will do the rest. And so thank you for taking the time to share with me.
You're welcome. And Eunice is my new best friend, and we just met about 30 days ago. And my encouragement to her when I heard her story would be the same, possibly Lawrence, to you or anyone on this else on this call. And that is, I said, write the article first. Write a 1,000-word article with a working title of the book. And as we began to visit and have a conversation, Eunice was passionate about, you get what you negotiate. And I said, Eunice, that's it. That's the title of your book, or that's the title of the article. And I said, just trust me, write a 1,000-word article titled, You Get What You Negotiate. And within about 10 days or 2 weeks, you forwarded me the article. Eunice, I never, ever, 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 ever want to hear you say you are not a writer.
Oh.
You are a writer. And if you're willing to share, and if you don't share, I will share it for you. What was my piece of advice regarding the article?
You had mentioned, and that's something that I've been meditating on since that email, was to add a story. And I think my biggest fear, because I live in a small community and what happened to me in my employment has not only just occurred to me, but others, is sharing that and even being blackballed even more, and it compounding the effects on my business. So I think that's the biggest, sharing my story and how that could impact me. But now it's like, I don't care, like I'm done.
Yeah.
You know, whatever.
And so you did in your article, first you wrote a great article, but it was an article that checks off the first box. You engaged my mind with your content. And so if you added a story, it would begin to touch our hearts. So Henry and team can help you figure that out. Does that make sense, Eunice?
Yes, it does. And I look forward to, I guess it's the coffee chat. I'm not sure who would be on that call, but I'll be looking for where I can sign up for that. I think
All right.
Michelle's going to be doing that.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Next, is there another question?
Well, Mark, actually, I didn't want to contradict you, but we need to go before we outnumber them. We have 2 calls coming up in a couple of minutes that we've got to take on Zoom. So I want to thank you. I want to thank everybody. Get those emails to us. We'd love to have the book chats with you. No selling zone, as we said, and love to hook you up with Forbes if that's of interest. Love to give you free books. And Mark, do you want to close?
I certainly will. Thank you, everyone. And I see Catherine has a question for me. Catherine, because I know you, I will reach out to you and answer that question.
Thank you. Thanks very much for today. I appreciate you all.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.